Hi friends, I'm Carla and I'm back today to talk to you about my June TBR, specifically for the historical fiction readathon that's being organized by Shelley Swearingen. I will link to her channel below and I am very excited because I love historical fiction and I feel like I haven't prioritized a lot of historical fiction in my reading lately, and so I'm very excited. So let's get right into it. So my first book is going to be The Glutton, which you can see I've already started and I am really loving. I found this originally through going through Steve Donoghue's Best of the Year. This was his #1 for historical fiction for last year, and I saw that Shelley also had this in her TBR, and I hope she gets to it and is enjoying it as much as me, because I'm really loving this. So this is a really cool book. It's based on a real figure in history, the great Terrare, the Glutton of Lyon, who was infamous for having a bottomless appetite. He had an ability to eat all kinds of inedible objects, including a golden fork, and was also said to eat live animals. And so this starts out at the end, towards the end of his life. He is very sick and dying, and so this goes back to recount the true story of his life, fictionalized. And it is so far just so beautifully written. I am loving the writing. It is very lyrical and lush, but also grotesque. So do keep that in mind. There's some pretty gross descriptions in here. It made me think of Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh. I know some people had a hard time with the descriptions in there, so if that doesn't work for you, this might not be for you, but I am loving it. It makes me think of Memento Mori still life paintings, and I'll put up some examples for you guys. They use imagery of flowers and fruit and bugs and other symbols that point to impermanence and the inevitability of death. And I just feel like the writing reads the way those look, and I just think it's beautiful. And it's just dark and lush and very cool, very different than anything I've read before. So yeah, highly recommend this one. So my next read is going to be The Painter's Daughters by Emily Howes, and I found this one through Heather from Fresh Parchment, from her June TBR. This one really jumped out at me because it's about a very famous 18th century painter, Thomas Gainsborough, and he made society paintings, but he also painted his daughters. And I actually got to see the paintings at the V&A Museum in London. And so when Heather was talking about the book, I recognized the portrait that's used on the cover. And I just thought that was so cool. I was like, well, I have to read that. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to read this one. It's about the two daughters who were very close, Molly and Peggy. And Molly seems to experience these episodes that are very scary for those around her. They don't understand them, and Peggy feels very protective of her, and it's about their relationship. And eventually they move to Bath from the country, and they're expected to kind of represent their father as a painter and you know, put on a good face for society. I also really love the idea of the very close sister relationship, because I have a twin sister and we grew up so close. We were always together. So I would love to see how that's represented in the book. My next book is going to be Cartucho by Nellie Campobello. And I want to read this one in the original Spanish, but there is an English translation. And I found this one through Mariana's books. She made a video all about Mexican historical fiction, and so I'll link her as well. I'll link everybody down below. But I'm very interested in this one because the author lived through the Mexican Revolution, and she wrote this from fictionalized account from the point of view of a young girl living through the revolution from 1916 to 1920. And I think it's vignettes or short stories from the child's point of view. And that just sounds really fascinating. So yeah, I think I will definitely get to this one. I really feel like I should because my birthday is November 20th, which is Mexican Revolution Day. So, and I'll be reading this one in ebook format because when I read in Spanish, since it's a less dominant language for me at this point, I really like being able to very quickly see the definition for words that I'm not too familiar with, and that helps me a lot. So that's a tip if you also read in other languages that you are maybe less familiar with. My next book is Jack by Marilynne Robinson, and this is actually the final book in a series, the Gilead series. This is the fourth book, and it is set in the US in the 50s in a fictional Iowa town, Gilead. And this series as a whole focuses on two families where the patriarchs are best friends. One is a Presbyterian minister and the other a Protestant reverend. So each book focuses on one character, and sort of through them you get to learn more about the people around them and their relationships with each other. This one focuses on Jack, who is a prodigal son who has struggled to assimilate to his family's expectations. And it says, in segregated St. Louis, sometime after World War II, Jack falls in love with Adela Miles, an African-American high school teacher who is also the daughter of a preacher. All of these novels are very character-driven, deeply philosophical and cerebral, very multi-layered and lyrical, and emotional. And I've really loved getting immersed in each of these books. In a way, they're a bit challenging because you can read so much into them that I just love really savoring each moment, just the way they're written. But when I read these, it's like I feel like my brain and my heart grow. So but this one is definitely one that I need to finish before the year is over because I've had it for a little bit and it's the last in the series, so yeah. My next book is going to be The Hours by Micheal Cunningham, and this is actually a tribute to Mrs. Dalloway, which now that I have finished it, I can read and get more out of than I would otherwise. If you guys want to see my thoughts on Mrs. Dalloway, that's going to be in my May wrap-up, so you can go check it out if you'd like. So this one takes place in the 20th century in the US and the UK, and we're following 3 different characters in 3 different decades, including Virginia Woolf herself as one of these characters, and in different ways we get to follow them and see the ways in which their experiences mirror Mrs. Dalloway's in the book. So yeah, I'm excited to check this one out. And apparently there's also a movie adaptation of this that won an Oscar, and there's like a million different people in it, so that might be worth checking out after the fact. The next book is The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. We are following Colette Lessange. She has been hiding a dark secret. She is immortal. In 1834, Colette's grandfather granted her the gift of eternal life, and since then she has endured centuries of turmoil and heartache. Now, around 150 years later, so that would be in the 80s, Colette is a lonely artist running an elite fine art school for children in upstate New York. But her life is suddenly upended by the arrival of a gifted child from a troubled home, the return of a stalking presence from her past, and her own mysteriously growing hunger for blood. I mean, an artist vampire. Could there be anything more perfect for me? So this made me think of Woman Eating by Khoda, which I read last year and I really, really loved. I'm sure it'll be different, but the idea of this vampire character who is also into art is something that I really enjoyed. So I'm excited to see it again so soon in a different book. The next book is Embers by Sándor Márai, and it's translated by Carol Brown Janeway from the Hungarian. And this takes place in the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1899. It's about an elderly general who invites an old friend to his house after 40 years apart. They haven't seen each other since an event that had a profound impact on them. Things were left unspoken and unresolved, and now it's time to face the truth in the dying light of an era. And the original translation of the Hungarian title is Candles Burn Until the End. So that with that idea of the light of a dying era. And I've been really loving reading books written around this sort of turn of the century kind of time. It's such a cool transitional kind of period to explore all kinds of different themes. And my last book is going to be Learned by Heart by Donoghue. I've enjoyed lots of her other books, and so I'm sure I'll enjoy this one too. I feel like this one might be a good option for something a little bit more lighthearted than some of my other picks. So I like having something a little lighter as an option. So this is set in New York in 1805, and we follow Eliza Rain as she falls in love in a school for young girls with Anne Lister, the infamous Anne Lister, who is most well known for her diaries documenting her many lesbian liaisons. But this one focuses specifically on Eliza. Heather featured a book that centers on Anne Lister, if you want a recommendation for that. But this one's all about her first love. So those are all my picks for the readathon. I am very excited to get to as many of them as I possibly can. If you are taking part, please let me know. Let me know what you are going to be reading, and if not, what you're reading anyway. And I will also be posting a video with recommendations, so books that I have already read that I would like to recommend. So please stay tuned for that if you'd like some recommendations. And that's it for me today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!